The vast chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with the voices of diplomats, generals, and rulers from across the known galaxy. The floating station, positioned in the neutral sector, was designed as a place where war and politics could be discussed without fear of immediate conflict. Today, however, the air was thick with tension. The war between the Dominion hegemony and the Celestian Empire had raged for years, burning through entire star systems and reducing once thriving civilizations to nothing but rubble. Neither side could claim victory, and desperation was beginning to take hold. Now, a bold proposal had been placed before the Council. Humanity must be brought into the war. A tall reptilian delegate from the Dominion hegemony stood, his emerald green scales shimmering under the artificial lights. The solution is simple. We need an advantage, and humanity provides it. Their fleets may be small, but their tactics are unpredictable. Their soldiers fight like cornered beasts. We must ensure they fight for us. A murmur of agreement rippled through half the chamber, but on the other side, representatives of the Celestian Empire scoffed at the idea. A feathered envoy from their ranks spread his wings slightly, a sign of irritation. "You believe you can control them?" he asked, his sharp golden eyes locking onto the Dominion delegate. "We have observed them for decades. They fight only when threatened. They remain neutral because they know their strength. If they choose to fight, it will be on their terms, not yours." The argument grew louder as more voices joined in, each side convinced they could be the ones to manipulate humanity to their benefit. Some believed Earth's forces were nothing more than a minor power, an untapped resource to be shaped and used. Others, however, spoke in hushed, uncertain tones, recalling the few encounters their species had with human warships, encounters that had ended without survivors. The debate raged on until an unexpected sound filled the chamber. A deep, rumbling voice, filled with age and wisdom, cut through the noise like a blade. "You are all making a mistake." The room fell silent as High Strategist Uruk-than of the Excelvarian species stepped forward. He was old, his once dark armor now a faded shade of bronze, his 4 powerful arms marked with scars of battles long past. He was one of the last surviving leaders of the fallen Excelvarian Empire, a civilization that had once been mighty but had crumbled into nothingness within a single generation. The council members regarded him with curiosity and, in some cases, unease. Uruk-than rarely spoke, and when he did, it was always worth listening. His crimson eyes swept across the chamber before he let out a slow breath. "I was there when we first tried to conquer Earth." The weight of his words made the air feel heavy. The Excelvarian Empire had been one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy until they had mysteriously vanished. Their disappearance had been a whispered warning to all species that some battles were better left unfought. "We thought, as you do now," Uruk-than continued, his voice steady. "We believed humanity was weak. We saw their small fleets, their lack of intergalactic colonies, their primitive diplomacy. We believed they would fall easily." He paused, his gaze darkening. "We sent an invasion fleet of 1,000 warships to subjugate them. Not a single one returned." The room remained deathly still. Some council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats, while others leaned forward, hanging on to every word. The old general's voice grew lower, yet it carried through the silence. "We thought it was a fluke, some technological failure, an accident. So we sent more. This time, 5,000 warships, fully armed, prepared for planetary siege. Before they reached Earth's orbit, we received a transmission from an unknown human leader. A single warning: turn back, or you will not return." He exhaled, his fingers tightening against the podium. We ignored it. We were fools. His next words sent a chill through the chamber. They never stood a chance. The entire fleet was erased within minutes. No wreckage, no distress signals, just silence. The only confirmation of what happened came from a single, garbled emergency broadcast from one of our ships. A terrified voice screaming the same phrase over and over again. They knew we were coming. A shudder ran through the audience. Some looked skeptical, but others, those who had studied the unexplained mysteries of war, began to understand the gravity of what they were hearing. Uruk-than continued, his expression unreadable. The war should have ended there. But it did not, because shortly after, the Exelvarian Empire itself began to collapse. We did not fall to war. We fell to fear. Our people refused to speak of what had happened. Our fleets lost their discipline. Even our rulers, those who had ordered the attack, faded into obscurity. We had provoked something we did not understand, and in doing so, we had doomed ourselves. The chamber was no longer filled with arguments. Instead, the tension had shifted to something far colder, something resembling dread. Uruk Than's voice softened. You speak of using humanity as a weapon, as if they are a tool to be controlled. You are blind. You do not control fire once it has started burning. You do not summon a storm and expect it to obey. If you pull them into your war, they will not fight for you. They will fight for their own survival. And if that happens, his eyes darkened. Then neither the Dominion hegemony nor the Celestian Empire will be left standing when it's over. A long silence followed. The council members glanced at one another, the weight of the warning settling deep into their thoughts. Some refused to believe it, unwilling to accept the idea that humans, a species so seemingly insignificant on the galactic stage, could be a true threat. Others, however, saw the truth behind Uruk Than's words, the quiet, undeniable truth that had already been written in history. The war had reached a breaking point, and the wrong decision now could mean the end of everything. Uruk then turned away from the podium, his final words echoing in the silent chamber. Keep humanity neutral, or we will all suffer the consequences. The chamber remained silent long after Uruk Than's warning had been spoken. The weight of his words lingered in the air like an unshakable shadow. Some council members shifted uncomfortably, unwilling to believe that a species as young as humanity could be as dangerous as he claimed. Others, however, were visibly disturbed, their minds racing with unspoken questions. If the Exelvarian Empire, once one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy, had fallen so mysteriously, then what had truly happened? Was it fear, as Uruk Than had suggested? Or was there something far worse, something that had been deliberately erased from history? The old general stood still, his crimson eyes scanning the faces of those who now waited for him to continue. He had seen this before, the disbelief, the arrogance, the same fatal underestimation that had doomed his own people. He exhaled slowly and spoke again, his voice measured, calm, but carrying an undeniable weight. We were not the first ones to think humanity was weak, Uruk Than said, his fingers tapping lightly against the metallic podium. But we were the first to try and break them. His gaze darkened as he continued. The Exelvarian High Council believed Earth was nothing more than an opportunity. A young species, isolated technologically behind the rest of the galaxy. Their planet was rich in resources, their fleets were small, and their military was primitive in comparison to ours. It was a simple decision: conquer them, assimilate their world into our empire, and use their workforce to fuel our expansion. We sent an invasion fleet of 1,000 warships, the best the Exelvarian Empire had to offer. We had no reason to expect resistance. He let out a slow, bitter breath. That fleet never returned. The tension in the room grew heavier. Some members of the council exchanged glances, unsure if they should believe such an absurd claim. Thousands of warships, gone without a trace? It was impossible. Yet Uruk then continued before anyone could interrupt. At first, we thought it was a navigation failure, he said. Perhaps a malfunction in our long-range communication relays. But then we received a message. Not from our fleet. From the humans. His eyes narrowed. It was a single transmission, in perfect Exelvarian dialect. Turn back, or you will not return. A cold shiver passed through the audience. Some scoffed, dismissing it as human arrogance. But others listened closely, their minds piecing together what this truly meant. The humans had known they were coming. They had been prepared. And yet, no reports had ever suggested that Earth possessed technology capable of intercepting an invading fleet without leaving behind wreckage or survivors. Uruk Than continued, his voice steady but filled with something almost imperceptible fear. We ignored the warning, he admitted. We sent another fleet, this time 5 times the size of the first, heavily armed, prepared for planetary siege. We would not be deterred by threats from a primitive race. But before our ships even reached Earth's orbit, this time, it was not a warning. It was a question. A human voice, calm and emotionless, asked, "Do you truly wish to continue?" He clenched his jaw, his voice lowering. We did not answer. We did not believe they had the right to ask. And so, we proceeded. His next words were spoken with an eerie stillness. It was over in minutes. A ripple of unease spread through the chamber. The entire fleet vanished. No distress calls, no battle reports, no wreckage. Just silence. His fingers tightened on the podium. At first, we thought it was some kind of unknown weapon, something so powerful that it could erase thousands of warships instantly. But it was not a weapon. It was them. The humans did not fight us with overwhelming firepower. They fought us with something far worse. They knew we were coming. They knew how we would attack. They had studied us, predicted us, understood us better than we understood ourselves. We were not just defeated. We were erased. A cold dread filled the chamber. Some council members whispered among themselves, trying to rationalize what they were hearing. Others remained silent, their expressions frozen in disbelief. Uruk-Than's voice dropped lower, his words carrying the weight of a man who had seen the impossible. But that was not the end, he said. Because soon after, the Exelvarian homeworld began to collapse not by war, not by rebellion, but by fear. It started with whispers among the soldiers. Those who had seen the reports, what little information we had left, began to desert. Our leaders, the ones who had ordered the invasion, grew paranoid, restless. They spoke in hushed voices of something they could not name. And then, one by one, they vanished. Some fled into exile. Others simply disappeared. He paused, allowing his words to sink in. The Empire did not fall to human weapons. It fell to doubt. We had encountered something beyond our understanding, something that did not fight wars the way we did. The humans did not just destroy our fleets. They shattered the very foundation of our civilization. He looked around the room, his gaze sharp. And now, you stand here, making the same mistake. The council chamber was deathly quiet. Even the most skeptical among them could not ignore the truth in Uruk-Than's voice. He exhaled slowly. You want to bring humanity into your war? You believe they can be controlled, that they will fight for you like mindless soldiers. But you do not understand what you are inviting into your conflict. If they choose to fight, it will not be as your allies. It will not be for your cause. They will fight in the way they have always fought, completely, mercilessly, and with a precision that no enemy survives. The air in the chamber felt heavy, suffocating. No one spoke. The warning had been given, the truth laid bare. The forgotten massacre of the Exelvarian fleet was no longer just a whispered legend, it was a lesson, one that had nearly been erased from history. Humanity had not expanded like other empires, had not sought conquest, had not boasted of its power. It had simply waited. And when provoked, it had acted with a silence more terrifying than war itself. Uruk-Than turned his gaze toward the highest-ranking members of the council, his final words carrying the weight of history. Do not make the same mistake we did. Keep them neutral, because if you force them to choose, you will not survive their answer. In the vast expanse of the galaxy, countless civilizations had risen and fallen, each leaving its mark on the annals of history. Among these, humanity remained an enigma, a species that had not sought dominion over others, nor had it displayed overt ambitions of conquest. Instead, it thrived in relative isolation, advancing technologically and culturally at its own pace. This deliberate seclusion led many to underestimate humanity's potential, viewing them as a minor player on the galactic stage. Yet, beneath this facade of neutrality lay a formidable force, one that had mastered the art of silent strength. Centuries ago, when interstellar travel became commonplace, various empires sought to expand their territories, often at the expense of less advanced species. The Exelvarian Empire, renowned for its military prowess, set its sights on Earth, deeming it ripe for annexation. They dispatched a fleet of 1,000 warships, confident in a swift victory. However, as they approached the Sol system, all contact was lost. Puzzled but undeterred, the Exilvarians sent a second, larger fleet. This too vanished without a trace. Whispers of an unseen defense mechanism began to circulate, but no concrete evidence was ever found. The Exilvarian Empire, once mighty, began to crumble from within, its leaders haunted by the unknown force that had thwarted their ambitions. Other civilizations took note. The Galactic Council, a coalition of advanced species, initiated discrete probes to study humanity. These probes, however, either malfunctioned or returned with corrupted data. It became evident that Earth possessed technologies beyond conventional understanding, capable of detecting and neutralizing threats without direct confrontation. This realization led to a paradigm shift. Humanity was not to be provoked. Despite their defensive capabilities, humans continued to engage in peaceful trade and cultural exchanges, always adhering to a strict code of neutrality. They shared knowledge, art, and innovations, enriching the galaxy without revealing the full extent of their power. This approach earned them respect and caution in equal measure. The concept of the silent superpower became synonymous with humanity, a civilization that wielded immense strength, but chose restraint over aggression. Legends of humanity's unseen might permeated galactic folklore. Tales spoke of entire armadas disappearing near Earth's vicinity, of spies who ventured too close and were never heard from again. Yet no evidence of violence or weaponry was ever found. This ambiguity only heightened the mystique surrounding humanity, fostering both admiration and apprehension. In diplomatic circles, Earth's representatives were known for their calm demeanor and measured responses. They participated in interstellar forums, offering insights and mediating disputes, but always maintained a subtle distance. This detachment was not born of arrogance, but of a profound understanding of their role in the cosmic order. They recognized that true power lay not in domination, but in the ability to influence outcomes without overt interference. The Galactic Council, mindful of past events, respected humanity's boundaries. While alliances were formed and treaties signed, there was an unspoken agreement to never encroach upon Earth's sovereignty. This mutual respect ensured a delicate balance, allowing humanity to flourish without external pressures. As millennia passed, humanity's influence grew, not through conquest, but through the silent dissemination of ideas and technologies. They became the galaxy's philosophers, scientists, and artists, guiding other civilizations toward enlightenment. Their silent strength served as a beacon, illustrating that true power need not be brandished to be effective. In the end, it was humanity's choice to remain a silent superpower that ensured lasting peace in the galaxy. Their restraint, wisdom, and unwavering commitment to neutrality became a model for others to emulate. The lessons learned from their interactions underscored the profound impact of silent strength, a force that could shape the destiny of civilizations without uttering a single word. The Galactic Council had always prided itself on maintaining balance among the stars. It was a fragile peace, held together by treaties, backroom deals, and the silent understanding that no empire could afford to push too far. But now, that balance was at risk, and the cause of it was humanity. A species that, for centuries, had stayed neutral in interstellar conflicts, trading quietly, advancing their technology in secrecy, and never openly declaring their allegiances. They were a mystery wrapped in patience, watching, learning, waiting. But that patience had limits, and today, the Council was about to test them. It started with the VR Dominion, a war-hardened empire known for its relentless expansion. They had grown bold, seeing Earth's neutrality as a sign of weakness. Unlike other civilizations that bowed before superior fleets, humanity had never engaged in direct war. Their ships traveled the stars, always alone, without the need for escorts. Their technology was advanced, yet they never flaunted it. To the VR, this was an opportunity. If Earth could be forced into submission, their resources, their knowledge, and perhaps even their hidden military might could be harvested for conquest. And so, the gamble began. The VR fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system without warning, a show of force designed to intimidate. Thousands of warships loomed over the outer planets, their weapons locked but not yet fired. A message was sent to Earth, an ultimatum. Submit to the Dominion. Provide resources, technology, and allegiance, or face consequences. The transmission was sent on all known human frequencies, ensuring that the message would be heard not just by Earth, but by every species watching. A provocation that could not be ignored. For a full day, there was no response. The silence was unnerving. The VR were used to immediate reactions: fear, desperation, or reckless retaliation. But humanity did nothing. No fleet moved to meet them. No diplomatic plea was sent. Just silence. And in that silence, uncertainty grew. Then, on the second day, a single human ship approached. It was not a battleship, not an armada, just a lone vessel, smaller than the smallest VR cruiser. It glided through space without urgency, unarmed, unafraid. The Dominion's commanders laughed. This was Earth's response? A single ship against thousands? The arrogance was almost insulting. The ship stopped just short of their front lines, and a transmission came through. The voice was calm, steady, devoid of fear. "You have made a mistake." The VR warlord sneered. "We are giving you a chance to surrender, humans. Do not test our patience." The reply was immediate. "You have already lost." And then, without warning, the Dominion ships began to fail. Engines sputtered, lights flickered, weapons refused to charge. One by one, their warships fell silent, powerless, adrift in space. Panic spread through their ranks as officers frantically worked to regain control, but it was useless. Whatever had been instantaneous, precise, absolute. The human ship remained still. No visible weapons had fired, no sign of an attack had been detected. Yet the VR fleet was helpless. For the first time in their history, the warlords felt something they had never known: fear. "You thought we were weak because we chose peace," the human voice continued. "You assumed silence meant submission. But you never considered that we were silent because we were watching, because we understood you long before you understood us." The warlord, now pale with disbelief, growled, "What have you done?" "Nothing permanent," the voice assured. "This is simply a demonstration. A warning. You came here believing you held power over us. That was your gamble. Now you see the truth." Across the fleet, distress calls were sent to their homeworld. No response came. The VR Dominion, for all its might, had been cut off. Humanity had severed their communications, disabled their warships, and rendered their entire operation meaningless, all without firing a single shot. "This is what restraint looks like," the voice continued. "This is mercy." The VR warlord clenched his fists, knowing that this battle had been lost before it even began. There was no war to fight, no fleet to command. Their enemy had decided the outcome before they had even arrived. And if this was what humanity did when they were holding back, what would happen if they were ever truly provoked? "You will leave now," the human voice said, "and you will never return. If you do, there will be no warnings, no second chances, only consequences." The warlord had no choice. With no weapons, no communications, and no options, the VR fleet turned and retreated, humiliated and broken. As the last of their ships disappeared into the void, the human vessel lingered for a moment before quietly returning to Earth's orbit. The gamble had been played. And as the galaxy watched, one truth became painfully clear: humanity was not to be challenged. The Galactic Council chamber was silent. Representatives from 100 civilizations sat in their designated places, their eyes locked on the central figure standing before them. A human. Alone. Calm. He was not a military leader, not an ambassador, not even a politician. Just a messenger. Yet, the weight of his words could decide the fate of the galaxy. Humanity had spoken before, had given warnings, had shown restraint. But patience had its limits, and today, the universe was about to hear the final warning. For centuries, humanity had remained neutral, avoiding unnecessary conflicts and choosing diplomacy over war. They had seen what happened to civilizations that allowed greed and arrogance to guide them. The fall of the Exelvarians, the shattered remains of the Dresk Dominion, The mysterious disappearance of the Veil Syndicate, all were lessons that the rest of the galaxy should have learned from, but they hadn't. Some still believed that power lay in numbers, in fleets, in weapons capable of turning planets into dust. They had mistaken humanity's silence for weakness. And now, the consequences were about to unfold. The cause of this meeting had been simple: an attack. A coalition of empires, the arrogant, the reckless, the foolish, had attempted what no one had dared before. They had struck at Earth itself. It had been a desperate, reckless gamble, one they believed could force humanity to surrender its secrets, its technology, its hidden strength. But the moment the first enemy fleet crossed into soul space, the battle had already been lost. The details were still unknown to the rest of the galaxy, but whispers had begun to spread. Entire fleets had gone dark, their ships drifting lifelessly in the void. Armies had landed on Mars, only to vanish without a trace. The homeworlds of the attacking empires had suffered strange, unexplained malfunctions. Entire planets plunged into blackout, their defenses disabled without a single shot being fired. The attackers had believed they were launching an invasion. Instead, they had walked into their own graves. And now, the human messenger stood before the Galactic Council, his expression devoid of emotion. "We asked for peace," he said, his voice carrying across the chamber. "We chose diplomacy. We allowed you to underestimate us because we believed that in time you would understand." That belief was a mistake. The assembled leaders shifted uncomfortably. Some avoided his gaze, others clenched their fists. Fear was thick in the air. "We could have destroyed you," the human continued. "We could have ended this war before your fleets even left your home systems. But we did not. Because we are not conquerors. We do not seek to rule." He let his words sink in before taking a step forward. "But we will not allow another attack. This is the final warning." The representative of the Draxian Empire, one of the surviving aggressors, stood abruptly. "You cannot dictate terms to the galaxy, human. No matter what power you claim to have, you are still only one species. If we unite against you..." The lights flickered. A hum filled the air, vibrating through the walls of the chamber. Suddenly, every screen, every device in the room displayed the same image, a live feed from the Draxian homeworld. Its sky was dark, its planetary defenses offline, its fleets frozen in orbit, their systems unresponsive. The council chamber erupted in gasps and murmurs of panic. The human's voice remained steady. "If you unite against us," he said, "there will be no war. There will only be silence." The Draxian representative sat down, his face pale. No one else spoke. "This is not a threat," the human said. "It is a promise. You have seen what happens when you cross the line. If you attack us again, there will be nothing left of your empires. Not because we desire war, but because we will not allow another one to begin." The message was clear. There would be no second chances, no negotiations, no further warnings. This was the last time humanity would tolerate the arrogance of the galaxy. If another shot was fired at Earth, if another fleet dared enter their space with hostile intent, there would be no survivors. The human turned to leave. No one stopped him. No one dared. The leaders of the galaxy sat in stunned silence, their fates now resting on a single, unbreakable truth: humanity had given its final warning.